snack. Me and you gonna have a little chat about books. Hi guys! So I am here today to review these 3 graphic novel books, or chapbooks. Let's get started. So let's start with the super chunky book, and that is this one. It is Big Questions, and it is by Anders Nilsson, and I got this for Christmas from my boyfriend, which I was very happy about. It is huge. It's quite a gigantic book. It's around 550 pages, and it is illustrated throughout. So it's illustrated in black and white. It's basically a very weird story. Quite a hard one to explain because it's quite philosophical and focuses a lot on birds and their versions of human philosophy and what's going on with humanity and sort of discovering more and more about this world where we live. Basically, it's kind of bird philosophy. That is how my boyfriend explained it to me when he opened the book and gave it to me for Christmas, and I would kind of agree that that is exactly what it is. You follow this little group of birds. I think they're just general, like, sparrows or something fairly common, and they are chatting about various things that go on in this world. The world is kind of very cut off. It seems like the birds don't know an awful lot about humanity. They are often fed by this old lady who sort of lives in this house with her grandson, and her grandson seems to be very mentally challenged. He doesn't really know anything about the world. He doesn't really know how to do anything for himself, and so it's quite an interesting read because the birds kind of comment on this, and they comment on their family dynamic and the way that they do things, and they don't really understand what is wrong with the boy himself, and they don't really understand about the lady herself. Clearly there are some scenes that are just really weird, and you don't really know why you're reading it or what's going on until a bit later. It all ties together. It's not a collection of short stories, although there are shorter things within this. You see different birds and you have to learn which bird is in which situation, and they're all drawn exactly the same, so it's hard to know from the drawing who is who, but they're all named and you kind of follow their stories and they all tie together in the end. The only criticism that I had with this was that it was a bit quirky, it was a bit out there, and so sometimes it lost me a little bit, and my boyfriend as well, because we read it together. But at other times it was really thought-provoking and really interesting to read from the bird's point of view. I also do really like the pages that have this sort of pattern on them. The panels are sometimes repeated. You get to see the birds as they do things and they change positions, and you see them having conversations. It is a very bizarre concept to sort of have these philosophical birds commenting on humanity and the things that they see around them and the corruption and the craziness that they see around them. But it's also very wonderful at times. It just has this quirky, fun element to it, and you can't help but kind of smile at some of the jokes that the birds come up with and some of the moments and criticisms that they say about humanity. It's very bizarre. So my only real criticism was that sometimes it was a bit too bizarre, and also the ending felt very rushed. I do wish that the ending had been a little bit more extended, or maybe foreshadowed a bit more, because it felt very sudden and very rushed, which I didn't appreciate too much because I was really enjoying it up to that point. So I ended up giving this one a 3.5 out of 5 stars. I probably would have given it a 4 stars had the ending been a little bit more drawn out and thought through, but unfortunately that wasn't the case, and so I could only give it a 3.5, but I did have an amazing time reading this out with my boyfriend, and it was so much fun to sit down together and read through this whole thing. We got through it in 2 days, which, considering it's 500 plus pages, is pretty great because it's a graphic novel and it's birds, and how much can they really say, I suppose? It's just fabulous, but really weird. So definitely not one I would recommend for everyone, but if it sounds like your sort of thing, maybe worth checking out because it is so bizarre. I'd never heard of it before he got it for me, but it was just great. It was a really fun experience, and I'm definitely intrigued about whether this guy brings out anything else. Who knows? It was bizarre, it was weird, and it was kind of wonderful all at once. The next one that I'm going to talk about is this absolutely tiny one. As you'll see, it is really small, but I'm going to hold it up here so you guys can see it a bit clearer. This is Ovarium. It is by Ali Oldfield, and this is such a cute little book. I picked this one up when I was in London with Eleanor and Mercedes in Gosh Comics, and they had this tiny little book in there, and I couldn't resist it. It's basically a book all about eggs, and that's exactly what it is. It has these beautiful little egg end papers, which I think are really cute, and then inside it just kind of says that it's about eggs. This book features a collection of rare eggs documented from distant and exotic lands. It is hoped that this guide will provide greater insight about the strange creatures that emerge from them. And so you just follow through, and every page has 2 eggs, and then each of them has a little story underneath, sort of telling you a little bit about the egg and where it might be found or what creatures might emerge from it. And some of them are really, really stunning. I mean, all of them are stunning, but this one's probably one of my favourites, this tiny, tiny little one here. It's very bizarre, very weird, but I love it. And it's such a cute little book, guys. So it didn't cost me very much, and I thought it was a really, really cute, independently published book. Again, the end papers are at the end too, and it was just really sweet. I loved it. I read it really quickly in like, I don't know, 10-15 minutes maybe, and it was just so quick and easy to get through and incredibly cute, and I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars because it is just so much fun, so fabulous, and really, really lovely and great to support independent authors and illustrators. And I think this was just excellent. So if you can get your hands on a copy of this at Gosh Comics, or you can check it out online, I'll put a link to the website and stuff if I find it below, and you can check it out. But it's really cute. Now on to this one, which is The Arrival by Shaun Tan. And this one, contrary to the other one, is absolutely huge. It's ginormous. This is a large format hardback, so it's a lot bigger than regular sized hardback, so it does fit on one of my shelves, but only this one, which is like a super big one. Just bear that in mind, otherwise you can get the paperback, which is a lot smaller and more regular sized. But I'm really happy to have the hardback because this is probably my favourite graphic novel of last year, 2015. I just adored this, and I read this in an evening. It's all told through pictures, so there are no words throughout this. If you open it up, you see the end papers, which are all of these different people, all of whom are from different walks of life and different heritage and different backgrounds and races, and all of them are just absolutely beautifully rendered. I think you'll all agree that the pencil drawing and the skill that Shaun Tan has is absolutely phenomenal. You then open up to the main storyline and you meet this family down here, and it's basically the story of the man in this family who decides that he needs to go away and he needs to go to a new place and kind of make a new life for them. And so it's kind of tied with immigration, I suppose. You could link it to immigration because he's going to this new place, but there are also these fantastical elements to it. Basically, we see that this is their homeland and where the family lives, and so the man in the family decides that he needs to leave this horrible place. You can see that there's all these monstrous tendrils, kind of a representation of the corruption of the government and the land where they live. And so the man in the family, he decides he needs to go and he needs to make a new life for the family somewhere else. He needs to immigrate into somewhere else or migrate into somewhere else and find them a new, safe, secure place to live. And so it's kind of the story of that. And you follow him as he goes to this entirely new place and he meets these creatures there who are kind of like guides, and they kind of give you this new life. It's kind of like a nice representation of a new life, a fresh start, a new clean slate, and he goes to this town and he has to completely rediscover what he thinks life is. He's very foreign to everything, he doesn't understand how everything works. It's a very peculiar town or place that he ends up in. It is sort of metaphorical, it's kind of represented through imagery and symbolism rather than through exactly what happens. So you do have these creative monsters, you meet other people that he kind of meets along the way, and you hear some of their storylines as well as his, and they're all immigrants into this place, and it's a very, very, very beautiful place that he ends up living, and I just utterly adored it. It was just such a beautiful, beautiful story. This is probably one of my favourite pages. I think that all of the double page spreads in this are phenomenal, but this one is particularly beautiful. I love the yellow tones that he uses to make these illustrations, and the pencil drawing is just spectacular. So it comes up really, really beautifully, really, really well when you read through it, and I just felt like it was such a moving story. I'm just going to read you a little bit off of the back that sort of describes what it's about. What drives so many people to leave everything behind and journey alone to the mysterious country, a place without friends or family, where everything is nameless and the future is unknown? This silent graphic novel is the story of every migrant, every refugee, every displaced person, and a tribute to all those who have made the journey. And on the back it's got this really beautiful sort of little hot air balloon type thing, which is very, very cool as well. And I just think that that sums up what this is exceptionally well. It is so beautiful and so moving and so sad and so heartwarming all at once, because it has these sad emotions of him having to leave his homeland and having to discover everything new, but it also gives him this new chance, this new possibility. And of course I absolutely adored this. I gave it a massive 5 out of 5 stars. It was phenomenal. I loved it so much. It was an incredible read and definitely well worth picking up. So do pick this one up. It is fabulous. And I would absolutely love to hear your thoughts on both this one and the other two that I just mentioned, Ovarium and Big Questions, down below in the comments. Thank you all for watching. Let me know if you're interested in picking them up, and I shall see you all again soon in another video. Bye! Me and you gonna have a little chat about the